I'm a second child, and I have what's called second child syndrome, which is really just my made-up syndrome. So don't Google it because it's not going to be there. This second child syndrome is sort of when you feel like you never measure up. Like you always feel like you're in second place. Like you never can attain enough. Like you'll never arrive because you're always busy trying to get there, you know? And I look at, biblical figures, and one of the best examples I can come up with is Esau and Jacob as an example. They were born at the same time, so to speak, because they were twins, but as always, someone had to come first. And I love the meaning of Esau's name, hairy and mature. His name meant hairy and mature. And in many ways, I thought that this meant that he had a hairy chest when he was born. And like he was a grown man when he entered the world, which honestly, you guys, seriously, that would just be really weird. How weird is a hairy baby? That's really weird. And we're not really talking about this adorable, peach fuzz that is on babies when they're born, but this thick black hair. And I really think the translation here would mean he had a thick head of hair. That would be my guess, but you never know. I mean, maybe we were talking about a modern day werewolf when Esau was born. I'm not really sure about that. And to be quite honest, I don't even like super hairy chests on men. I mean, let alone on a baby, But then I had my own children, and all of them were born mature. And when I say that, they scored high on the AGPAR ratings, all 9s. Not perfect, but good. And they all came out with this thick head of hair. Kira said the most, and Elijah had the least. But the common response when people saw my babies was, they look so mature. So when friends and family came in to visit and they saw Esau with Rebecca, with all his hair and fullness at such a young age, I'm sure that they said in some Hebrew clicking sound, so mature. And so Esau it was. And then there was Jacob. No hair, unassuming, probably a little quieter and maybe even a little whinier. I mean, he was a second child after all. I mean, we just have to admit that. And his mother, as all mothers, had a special place in her heart for him. How can you blame her? Here he is, the youngest, and he's weaker. She just did. So here's what I was thinking about Esau and Jacob, how it's so amazing that God can take twisted scenarios and work them out for good. If you look at Genesis 25:29, and you look at the interaction between brothers, you can see a very youthful and let's be honest here, dumb interaction between the two of them. Not unlike our interactions with siblings today. I mean, Esau comes in from the fields. He's been out there for a long day, and he smells something really good to eat. And so in his stupidity, and he's starving, he gives up this really important role in those days, his rights as the firstborn, and he gives it to Jacob for a bowl of broccoli and cheese soup from Panera. That's it, just like that. He threw it all away for soup. Oh wait, I'm mixing that up with my oldest daughter, who would sell the farm for broccoli and cheese soup from Panera, but I think it was lentil soup that Esau, gave up his birthright for. But soup, people. I mean, Esau threw away his rights on a bowl of soup. Now, there's a lot more to this story. A whole drama ensues in which Rebecca gets involved, and they cover Jacob in hair and deceive their father, Isaac. And in the end, not only has Jacob gotten verbal word from Esau, but he's gotten the complete blessing from his father. And he doesn't do it in a very upright manner. He basically steals it. But here's what I need to remember about Jacob as my second-born role model. God can take wicked situations, whether they are your own doing or not, and make them better. It's hard to believe God had a plan through all of this deception, but he did. Crazy thing is, later on, those brothers kissed and made up, but not until Jacob had fled the area and settled somewhere else. And Esau, despite his willingness to trade everything on a bowl of soup ended up acquiring this vast amount of wealth. I mean, it was nothing to sneeze at. So here I am, and for some reason, I'm really thinking about you moms today who have discovered that you had cancer while you were staying home with your children. And this pertains to a lot of us. And maybe you're like me, and maybe you feel like Jacob a little bit, second born, a little bit second class, like you've never really measured up. And then, lo and behold, this cancer hits. And I don't know why, but cancer has this way of wiping out our security and letting these insecurities creep in. It just does. And you may have struggles with the emotional impact, of staying home with your kids, but then your physical body gives out and people start asking you how you got it. Like, how you got cancer. And even though you might be a size 6 and super athletic, you still feel somehow like you failed to keep yourself healthy. Like you failed to take care of your most basic need, your health. Which, despite studies, there's no real way to tell how you got cancer. And for heaven's sakes, it's normal to gain weight when you're pregnant. So quit beating yourself up. And I have to do this daily. So I'm not really an expert. Let's just say I'm living out the above stuff that I've just talked about. But over and over again, we see in the Bible people of God that God uses over and over again who are insecure and goofy and washed up and unhealthy and whatever. And he turns these situations that are really nasty out for good. He does it over and over again. Jacob wanted that blessing. He wanted it so bad he manipulated the outcome. And God could have punished him, but instead he made a very bad situation a very good one. And one other thing, Jacob didn't let his insecurities keep him from grasping God's full potential for his life. He moved ahead because he didn't let life's insecurities stand in his way. Don't let cancer, or anything else for that matter, keep you from God's full potential for what his plans are for you. And if you're like me and you're trying to figure out how to move on from cancer or move on from a tragic event or a hurtful event, I hope this story reminds you that God is capable of taking your sadness and your brokenness, both physically and emotionally, and your feelings of inadequacies, and doing something really amazing in your life. I can't urge you enough to stay away from closing up, shutting down, and withdrawing. I'm working on that daily. God has a plan. Just be available. Be available for him.